Africa, and welcome to AAU Talks here on AAU TV. My name is Nqosa Mahao, and today on AAU Talks, we are discussing critical issues affecting higher education in Africa. You can join us in the studio via our social media platforms, Association of African Universities on Facebook, and AAU_67 via Twitter. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, I will introduce my guest. Stay tuned.
You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You've been searching for a new kind of university that matches your ambition. Our world-class education is renowned, but there is more to us. Meet the university in Ghana that is transforming Africa. One that is nurturing a new generation of ethical, entrepreneurial leaders. One that offers scholarships thanks to the Massacre Foundation, so that you can be part of our community of students who stand for integrity, discipline, and excellence. There is only one such university, only one, where 100% of graduates receive job offers or graduate school admissions. You may not have heard about us, but we have heard about you. You are Africa's future, and we are Ashesi University College. Together, we can begin to create a new Africa.
Welcome back, viewers. This is AAU Talks, and we are discussing critical issues affecting higher education in Africa. And we are privileged to have two professors in the studio, and they are going to discuss the issues affecting higher education. We will look at the Southern African region, we will look at the Eastern Africa, and the other regions of Africa. We have in the studio Professor Nqosa Mahao, and he is a governing board member of the Association of African Universities and also the Vice Chancellor, National University of Lesotho. Prof, you are welcome.
Such a pleasure, Kwesi, to be here in the headquarters of the Association of African Universities.
Thank you very much. And I hope you are enjoying Ghana, right?
Certainly I am.
Great. The second guest to be introduced is Professor Hassan Mohamed Kaafi, and he is also a governing board member of the Association of African Universities, specifically for the Eastern African region, and he is also the president of Plasma University in Somalia. Prof, you are welcome to AAU Talks.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you.
How are you?
Yeah, very fine.
Great. And I hope both of you have enjoyed Ghana the past few days.
We have enjoyed
sure.
the last 3 days of being here.
Great.
It's always a pleasure coming to Agra.
Okay, that's beautiful. Today on AAU Talks, we are discussing critical issues affecting higher education on the continent, most especially when we have unemployment everywhere in the southern, eastern, western, central Africa, and a lot of stakeholders are bashing the higher education institutions that we are producing graduates who are not fit for the job market. What is your take on unemployment issues in Africa?
Kwesi, the challenge is huge.
Okay.
But I always want to say, as a social scientist,
Okay.
let us put our thumb where the problem lies. We live in the age of what is called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is very different from the earlier epochs that we have lived. The global economy, by definition, is not generating jobs.
Sure.
So that is where the problem is. Far too often, you'll be told that it is the education system that is not producing people that are fit for the job market. As if there are jobs waiting there for people to can apply for them and just take.
Okay.
The reality is that we are in the age where the global economy is not generating jobs. Now, what the higher education sector has to do is to reposition itself to say, in the context where industry is not generating jobs, how do we then transform education such that it is able to deal with the three challenges, the unemployability of the graduate, the underemployability of graduate, and of course the general phenomenon of there being no jobs.
No jobs, okay.
So that is a big challenge that says to us that we have to focus our training in the areas that we believe would be able to equip our graduates with the capacity to create jobs themselves and also to employ others. It is always a very big challenge.
Prof, you know, when you speak to industry players, industry players will tell you the jobs are available, but the graduates who are coming out are not trained to fit into the job market. Professor Kaafi, is it the same in Somalia specifically?
Yeah.
Do you have industries in Somalia complaining that the students who come out of your universities are not fit for the job market?
As Professor said, there is a big dilemma in between the discussion. The argument is that other jobs waiting, enough jobs, because technology is overtaking almost a human position.
Yes.
And all we are producing is a human trained, which we wanted to fit the job market. So we are all facing in Africa mostly, or in other world, any part of the world, that jobs are being reduced. There are less based jobs. Number one. Number two, universities have rethink it and just going to do the curriculum changes, and they have done a lot because we are now trying to produce job creators, not job seekers. And the other way. So universities are bringing and just encouraging graduates to be those who are creating jobs for others, not those who are looking to occupy spaces in job places. So the argument is on the desk that we are living a world which technology is taking almost the work of 3 or 4 or 5 people in one place. So what will the phenomena be the next generation who is coming, or the graduates who are coming now? What are the space remaining for them? How are we going to give them space? And that discussion should be participated by the industry and the academics.
Thank you very much. I think he brings in a factor that is much more relevant. We trying to produce job creators and not job seekers. Are universities ready, or are we in the position to do so?
My sense is that universities are adjusting.
Gradually.
And this is going to be over time. But by and large, recognition has emerged that the primary focus of the global system of education, but more so in the context of Africa, should be to train and produce more and more graduates in the so-called STEMs area: science, engineering, technology, mathematics, and science. Because these are people that, as my colleague here, Professor Kaafi says, these are people who are going to be ahead of the technological developments. Because basically the digital age says that is where the global economy is going to be growing. And so more and more products of universities must be pitched in that space.
But you see, even developing that further, we are focusing on STEM, which is good. But what happens to the students who are not in a STEM-related field? What happens to them?
I'm not in favor of the argument that let's do away with the humanities.
Yes.
They say that a man armed with science but no conscience is a bomb waiting to explode. And so the humanities must always be there because they are what balances our consciousness. The ability to do, if not balance with doing the right things. is a dangerous knowledge in men's hands. And so we must always have the humanities. But of course, even with the humanities, the universities are now trying to be a lot more selective in terms of saying what are the areas that should produce graduates that are empowered not to be job seekers, but to be creators of jobs.
Great. So, Professor Kaafi, let me come to you. How do we create an enabling environment for our students right from campus to empower them and to ensure that they become job creators and not job seekers after school? As academics, what can we do?
What we just try to do, and we are supposed to, is we just we allow students as they are learning to go outside and to explore what's going on the real market. You know, if a student stays at the campus for 4 years and after graduation he has that broadness that is graduate of university and he wants to start somewhere from his life or job. So we allow them first to go around as we are giving him lectures or theories. They will go from year one. After the end of the year one, what we do as a university, we send them to the market where they are going to work. We tell them be volunteer at your site. Then as a student goes to close for graduation, he will know exactly where to position himself at the market. And he will be a more entrepreneur than other student who has been kept at the campus, full-time student who has never been paid or been sponsored by government. By the end, he comes out and waits and feels that while the wait is him to join, but nobody waits him that time and get disappointed or discouraged. So what we are doing now, we send him to the market earlier and tell them to see what are you going to contribute that market which you are going closer to the next 3 to 4 years. The second thing we are trying to do as academicians, even universities are no longer not only academician institutions which are standing somewhere, even they have to come up with business sectors which help as income generating. By the same way, students will go there for volunteers and do a lot of efforts. And as a groupies, they can help the other investing institutions to create for them the life coming.
Great. That is also excellent. But Prof, we are talking about the fact that we need to create that enabling environment. And you made mention of the student being allowed to go to the job market whilst they are still on campus. But here is a situation where in Africa, or African higher education, there is a huge gap between the industries or the private sector and then the academic institutions. And most often than not, attachment, volunteerism, and then internships are not really managed by the universities because of this gap. How do we ensure that our students, whilst they're still in school, they have access to the industries for training?
Historically, industry and the higher education sector operated in an environment where there was very little contact.
Yes.
It is absolutely necessary in our age that industry recognizes that it has an important role to play.
Absolutely.
In higher education, in training, because they are the consumers of the products at the end of the day. So university industry linkages are so important and they have to be emphasized. And of course, it is our challenge as a higher education to go out there, try to work on the consciousness of industry, to be aware that they have a hand to play in training those that they will be consuming as their products at the end of the day. So that's very important. But secondly, it is very, very imperative that universities embed entrepreneurial skills in their training across the spectrum of disciplines that they offer.
Sure.
So that you have a student who is able by the day he walks out there on a graduation day, he would be able to develop a business plan, farm it out, maybe to the banks or whoever, to get a startup capital, and can then get into the world of work and creating jobs.
Okay.
So, yes, there are still challenges, in particular because the industry is not so well developed on the African continent, but more so it is at the level of consciousness. The awareness of industry that it has a historical mission to contribute to higher education.
Great. Let me, before I go to Professor Kaafi, let me be a bit specific with your university. Do you enjoy that partnership from the industry players? Do they support you? And does your university also open up to the industry players, maybe to make decisions with respect to your academic or your curriculum? Or do you invite them to even lecture or give some kind of series to your students?
We are cultivating this new culture.
Okay.
And in the last 2 years, I personally have witnessed tremendous support from industry.
All right.
I'll tell you that we have moved into the area of innovation, where a number of products that have been incubated in our laboratories
That's good.
are now ready for commercialization. And we have had a lot of industry support in the development of the products. We are now at a stage where we are saying we want to move to the next level, which is establishing what we call the industrial park.
Okay.
And we are again calling on industry to say, yes, we want to establish these industries, come in with your big pockets, invest in them,
Okay.
so that they are able to create jobs, so that you are able to manufacture goods in the country that will not only provide job opportunities, but also to the foreign hard currency through export. So yes, there is a shift, discernible shift, and it affirms the general trend in the world.
That's beautiful. Prof, do you have the same situation in your university where you have industry supporting you?
We are getting good collaboration with the industry, though the country has gone through collapse or problem, after chaos. But now, as the institution is, our industry are coming back and the academics. So we have tried to do that linkage stronger. And even we had a meeting, a conference, which most of the stakeholders were participating to redesign our curriculum, because we are going to produce graduates who are eligible to work, to do the work of tomorrow, not the work of yesterday. You know, if your curriculum is not updated, you are producing graduates of the yesterday, not the graduates of tomorrow. So we told them to help us to redesign and to see about what is needed in our industry at this level. And you know, the curriculum must be the context of the curriculum must be relevant to the stage of life of the nation. So that is what we are now doing, and the good thing, we have succeeded to send the students to do internship inside some industries, though we know it is not the way it should be, because things are now coming back and we are trying all the sides.
Okay. Prof, let's go to another area which is becoming a bane to African higher education, and that is academic brain drain, where we have the finest brains and then the brilliant Africans migrating to the other continent. You know, the developed world brings in scholarships, brings in grants, and then we find the best brains who can develop our continent running away. How do we tackle such an issue? Because in the near future, we would have the best brains that can develop our continent out. What do we do as academics?
Historically, from around the 80s, we got the wrong advice as developing countries that higher education is not a priority. And so governments
We're not investing.
disinvested in higher education. And that's the time when the African university lost some of their best brains, because they all flowed to the developed north. And over the period, you can see the huge gap that has developed between not just the university in the south and the university in the north, but also the economies of the two global sub-regions. Of course, this point has been recognized at the political level by the African Union. And of course, that has been the campaign of the Association of African Universities to say, let us develop our own capacities as universities so that we are repositioned to address the developmental challenges of the continent. So this is a major shift. But the resources, research resources, for example, the working conditions in the African university,
it's not like
still leave a lot to be desired. The result is that those who have the best research opportunities and working conditions still lie in the north, the global north. So the African university still faces a major challenge. But that is where the AAU comes in to say, let us help build each other's capacities so that we have a good standard of education on the African continent. We are able to develop our own researchers that will bear on the development of the African continent.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Prof, let me take your view on that.
Okay. As my colleague said, almost he has touched all the areas, but including we need to create that feeling that this is our continent and no longer you stay a developed part of the world. Where you are going to be back is your home, I mean the continent. So I first put a strong intention that our graduates or our academicians should have that feeling of what kind of contribution they are going to give. And as a political wise, each government, I hope, can come up with that strategy, this or something which can maintain those who are talented people in the nation who are now just traveling and had to be back again to home. So I think, as a friend said, it is about the association and the Union of African Union to just campaign for it. And if political-wise, some of the political situation of some countries, some of the academicians even feel that they need to be out of that box and that is the way they can develop only the ideas. So I hope if we create that awareness or promotions for those who we feel that they can really develop and contribute the continent, as a continent we can have them inside the continent somewhere.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Viewers, this is AAU Talks here on AAU TV, and today we are looking at critical issues affecting African higher education. We have Professor Hafiz and Professor Mahao in the studio. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, we'll look at other factors as well. Stay tuned. welcome from the commercial break. This is AAU Talks here on AAU TV. We still have our professors in the studio, and we are discussing critical issues affecting African higher education. Now, let me get to you, Prof. Issues concerning research. The normal balance in African higher education has been publish or perish as academics. So we have a lot of academics publishing a lot, and it's amazing that even with the number of journals and publications we are making, Africa contributes almost about 2% to the global knowledge. Every university is set up for 3 reasons: to train or to teach, to engage in research, and also community service. Is the idea of publish or perish affecting us as higher education, and how is it affecting that? Are we benefiting from it, and how are we benefiting from this syndrome?
Research is a big challenge for the African university. First and foremost, how much of our GDP do we commit
To research.
to research?
Yeah.
You will notice that African countries, by and large, commit a minuscule. In the part of the world where I come from, Southern Africa, I think it is South Africa that commits a lot more into research. Possibly Botswana coming close to that.
Yeah.
But by and large, the consciousness has not arisen in the African government that you have to put resources that enable research to be leveraged by your scholars. Now, we need to acknowledge this one fact. When we talk about research, we're talking about knowledge production.
Yes.
And there is just no way in which Africa will develop without its own scholars being able to do research and customize the outputs of their
Own research. Exactly.
to the needs of their societies. Earlier on, I spoke about what our scientists are doing in the laboratories, researching and coming out with tangible goods, articles that are convertible into commercial goods. That is the basis of industrialization.
Exactly.
The reason why 50, 60 years on in some countries, why Africa is an importer of goods and services is because we did not start where it ought to start, in the laboratory. We always believe that we can leverage commodities coming from elsewhere.
Yes.
And as we did so, we were actually growing economies that are external to us. So,
And not our own.
and not our own
Exactly.
economies. So it is so important for governments, for industry itself, for the university itself to understand that development starts with local research. Now,
even before you continue, is it not for a fact that universities maybe are not conducting, let me use the word, cross-cutting or relevant research to the needs of the government and to the needs of the industries? That is why they are not supporting. For instance, if I'm a consumer and I want to buy a product, I will purchase a product that has value. I would invest in a product that has value. But if you are conducting research just for the purpose of the fact that you want to progress through the academic ladder, and it's not for commercial use, it is not tilted to the needs of the people, then the government won't see the need to invest, industry players won't see the need to invest.
well, there will always be space for basic research to advance the frontiers of knowledge.
Yes.
It's absolutely necessary to do. But we must largely invest in applied research,
Sure.
because applied research responds to the day-to-day needs of society.
Sure.
And that is the frontier where there are huge possibilities of cooperation with industry. Industry can actually drive research by investing in what the needs of a particular industry are. So, yes, we need to navigate that tangent. The trouble is this. Over time, when there was this period of demoralization of the African academics were not doing research at all.
Sure.
So we have almost had to go back to the basics and say, if you are an academic, you must be a researcher. You have referred to the cliche, publish or perish.
Exactly.
Far too often, we did not enforce that as universities. But I'm content with the fact that increasingly universities are saying, the day you sign your contract to be an academic, remember that it is not just for you to administer tuition, but you also have to do research. You have to do community service because that is where you interact with the community. In any case, tune your community engagement in such a manner that it becomes the platform of your research.
Exactly.
Where you are enriching the knowledge in the classroom, in the libraries, but you are also enriching the communities with the values that you are generating from your research.
Great. Professor Kaafi, are we doing well with research commercialization and community service as African academics?
Really, I can't say yes, but we are in some way starting, because the points clearly pointed out is that what we all need is let us be practical then to just write a book and produce a knowledge which we don't know who is going to read it.
Yes.
Again, the challenges we face somewhere in the countries, especially in our home, there is a gap between the community and the academicians, because we are teaching in English, and probably after we do the researches and we print out, there is less beneficiary for the public, because they are not...
They don't understand that language.
Yeah, the real language you are just publishing. So we have enforced it again. The students who are doing, or whoever academician who are doing, they have to translate. After finishing, they have to translate what they have again done and do other separate books. At least people read and see if they can say they can understand in the real meaning and the real life with the real comparing to the real life. Because you may have books, you may have publication to reach a point that you are knocking, but it is a problem that it is not being used at all.
Okay.
So we are as in Somalia, we are trying to bring the attention that this publication which has been already done must be at least used in the real life, and it has to change something about our space. Okay.
All right. So thank you very much. With our final word, we want to look at the issues of funding. Funding is becoming a big issue in African higher education, and we are saying that education must be affordable, it must be accessible to everybody, but people are discriminated because of issues of finances, and governments all over Africa are now drawing their funds gradually from the universities. How do we keep up and then still ensure that as a university we are able to spearhead and then execute our mandate?
Yes, it is a big challenge. The issue of funding higher education is a challenge. And I remember that higher education is a very capital-intensive enterprise that requires a lot of funds. And it is the case that the state has to share the little resources with all of the development challenges that it has to confront. Now, of course, historically, the state has a principal responsibility to provide funding. Let's not allow the temptation to say that the state must completely pull out. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It has an obligation to actually create a new resource capital of the country for the future. But secondly, the private sector. The private sector has to play a far more meaningful role in funding higher education. That has not been readily forthcoming yet. And as I said earlier on, yes, you can see that there is a little bit of a gradual movement in that direction. But then, of course, the university of our time also has to be very innovative. To come out with a myriad of ways of generating resources by itself. In my university, and I suppose in many other universities, we have established a company, a university holding company.
So university enterprise?
Yes, whose main source is to manage the range of enterprises that the university is establishing either outside itself or through, as I indicated, the articles that are coming from the laboratories and that need to be commercialized. We have to also establish foundations that can go out there. You know, there are people in the world who are sitting on huge reservoirs of resources, which they don't know where to spend them on. And we need to establish bridges that would leverage those resources. So, yes, there must be a diversity of mechanisms by which the university itself is able to plug the gap, the funding gap that is emerging. And that is when you talk about the enterprising university, because we live in that age where the resources are not readily available from the public purse.
Prof?
By adding to my friend's word, I would say, you know, I'm from private university, and in our country, most universities are private. I can say one university is a public, Somali National University, and it came because of after the civil war and the collapse of the state, people started to do their universities on their own way. What happened is they rarely get any funds from a government, but they have managed again to make education affordable, because it is what is the public universities are taking now, enterprising and having holding or investment company in the university, which runs that enterprises which are in different areas. As Plasma University, we have that one. And not only we have in Somalia alone, but even we have in the closer neighbor countries like Kenya or other countries. We have seen it can be the real sustainability of the university should be relying on it is income generating areas or other resources where we are getting, instead of looking for donors. And you know, donors, and I don't know where the world is going now, but I'm feeling there is a fatigue for donors around the world, and the crisis of our world are increasing. So people are now focusing about emergencies, helping emergency cases. So universities should have a way out to help themselves and to reach self-reliance. That is when we were even celebrating our 10th anniversary on 2015, our theme was 10 years of a decade of academic excellence and self-reliance. That is what we have been doing all the way, building our campus, building whatever. We have never ever get any donor fund from any counterpart. We are doing ours by inside that entrepreneurial skills we are using in the different areas.
Thank you very much. Prof, in the next 50 years, where do you want to see African higher education?
Wow, that's a mouthful one. Higher education on this continent
Just within
is the motor of
two
development.
sentences.
It's the motor of development.
Okay.
It has to be strengthened so that it is able to deliver on the goods.
Okay.
And it is only through higher education that the gap between the developed and the underdeveloped world will be closed. Think of the Northeast Asia countries, how they were at the same level of development on the eve of independence 60 years ago. And they have moved way ahead. And the driver was actually higher education. And so we need actually to catch up with them by strengthening the capacities of higher education.
Thank you very much. Prof, in the next 50 years, where do you want to see?
More broad, the word should be stronger enough, but we say what we need, we have a vision which we have written down in the starting. So we want it to be, the word is in the vision, to be, globally excellence academic centers which are producing graduates which can compete all over the world, whether it's north or east or south. We don't think Africa higher education after 50 years is still waiting to be named undeveloped or underdeveloping countries. We hope it should be, because world has changed, as my friend talks about, from before even 10 years, most production of the world or the most market was west. Now it is east. So we hope it will be south, which we mean Africa, should be the leading position as Asia is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us and sharing innovative ideas and solutions to better African higher education. We know we'll fall on you once again to share with you some thoughts as well.
Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you. Viewers, this has been AAU Talks here on AAU TV. Thank you for watching. You can still join the conversation via our social media platform. My name is Nqosa Mahao, and thank you for your time.